Welcome to Town & Country TV. I'm your host, Mitchell Watts, and today we're going to show you everything you need to know about finding, inspecting, and purchasing your next used car. Today's video is going to be a little lengthy, and the reason for that, there's a lot of topics that we need to talk about here. Everything from the exterior to the interior to the engine, the drivability, the tires, and also the Carfax and other things like that. So what we're going to do is on the left-hand side of your screen right here, you should have some links, as long as you're on a desktop that is, that'll take you to the specific subject that you're looking for. If you have some concerns about your next vehicle that you're about to purchase, some engine issues, you can click right in here to the engines and it'll tell you what we have to say about that particular topic on buying your next vehicle. Now keep in mind that we are not just some people that just randomly giving out some information. We actually have a lot of experience in automotive. I've actually been working here since 1999 and many years actually been appraising cars, purchasing cars as a living, and that's what I actually did for a living. So nonetheless, on the left hand side you'll be able to click those links. If you're on a mobile device, you should be able to see those links down there in the description. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the first topic, and that's on the exterior of the vehicle. So the first thing that you need to do as far as looking to select your vehicle is you need to make sure that there's no prior body damage. Make sure there's no accidents. And if there is an accident, that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. You just need to know about it before you buy the vehicle. Now the first thing that we do before we go in through and inspecting it and things like that is we actually run a Carfax on the vehicle. Carfax is not perfect. Let me say that very loud and clear. We've seen multiple times where Carfax doesn't report certain instances, meaning that like if I back into a pole at my house and then I have my brother Billy Bob fix the vehicle, well, that's never going to get reported to Carfax. And so you just need to know that Carfax is a great tool, but it is not the automotive Bible. So with that being said, let me show you what we do as far as pulling a Carfax. You can go to carfax.com and type in the information, and then also you have an application, a phone app, that you can actually download the Carfax history report. So let's show you what we do. The first thing that we do is you should see a little VIN sticker right here that actually shows you about the vehicle, when it was manufactured and things like that. What we do is you just take your Carfax app, you can scan that barcode, and it will automatically pull the Carfax on this particular vehicle. This one is actually a Carfax one owner, it's clean, no accidents reported, and this is a perfect example of why you don't trust the Carfax alone. This vehicle does have some prior body damage that was never reported, but at least it's a good information source where you can see exactly where this vehicle's lived most of its life. As you can see kind of in, it's basically lived all of its life in Alabama. So it's just a good report, just a good little tool to help you look for body damage before you start looking. One of the things you do want to keep in mind is when you're buying a vehicle from a dealership, most manufacturers have a certified pre-owned program. For instance, Ford has a CPO, short for the Certified Pre-Owned Program. But what that is it means that it's got a couple extra features to it that a normal used car doesn't have. And so you have instantly, right off the bat, a 172-point inspection done by a Ford certified technician. Now, each manufacturer is going to probably be slightly different, but I can tell you about our program. 172-point inspection, comes with a 7-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, and it also comes with an additional 1-year, 12,000-mile warranty comprehensive that covers everything on the car, just almost as if a bumper-to-bumper. It's the closest thing you can get to a bumper-to-bumper warranty. Now, the reason I bring that up is because if a dealership or a person is willing to give you an extended warranty right off the bat at no extra charge, that means that they have automatically done extra due diligence to make sure that the vehicle is a good vehicle. You still need to use some of these steps that we're telling you about today to do a thorough inspection and to make sure that it's the right vehicle for you and make sure that it hasn't been damaged and things like that. But it automatically gives you some peace of mind because someone else is willing to take the risk to take it away from you. And so that's one of the reasons that I personally believe in certified pre-owned programs, whether it's Ford's program or another manufacturer. Obviously, we're a little bit more biased to the Ford's program because it does include a couple of other things that some of the other manufacturers don't. But nonetheless, I think a certified pre-owned program on a vehicle, I think it's a great option. Now that you've run the Carfax and you have a kind of a general idea of what you're looking for and what you have here on the vehicle, you want to back up and just kind of look at the vehicle from a whole. Does the car look like it's straight? Does the color of the front fender match the color of the door? And does the door match the bedside or the quarter panel if you're looking at a car? What you're looking for is a color variance can usually mean that maybe this particular fender was painted and it was blended into this door. So you want to make sure that all of your body panels look about the same color, because newer paint will have a different shade than older paint if it's an older vehicle like this one is. Now you also want to take a look at the body lines. What do the body lines of the car look like? As we run our finger down through that body line, you'll be able to tell if it's matched up. So what you're looking for, does the body line up here about the same distance as the body line down here? And you also want to make sure that the door is flush with the fender as far as coming out. You want to make sure that if you run your finger that it's level. So basically what you're doing is you're looking for symmetry on the body all the way around. And so once you've looked at all of your body jambs, you want to look at this one, you want to look at the bedside as well, you also want to look at the tailgate, you want to look at everything as far as that's concerned, and that'll tell you just kind of a general idea, has anything major happened to this vehicle. If you have some really bad off body lines, that could mean that this vehicle was in a serious accident. And it's not saying that you don't purchase a vehicle that's been in a serious accident, you just need to know it before you try and buy it. Now, with that being said, the next thing that we do is we actually go through and feel for tape lines. So for instance, if you have a vehicle that's been painted, let's say if you have suspicion that this door has been painted, what that collision center would have done is they would have taped off this inside right here so that way they could spray new paint on here. And so when they tape it off, there will typically be a tape line where if you ran your finger down the inside of this door jamb, you would feel a line or a little bit of roughness. And so what you're doing there is you're feeling for that tape line. I don't feel anything on this specific body panel, but that's what you're looking for. If you feel any amount of roughness, something that feels different than out here, if it feels different in here, that could mean that this specific body panel was painted. And if you do see any of this information, any of this stuff, you do want to make sure that it gets inspected further. And that actually brings up a good point. Regardless of whether you're dealing with another person or a dealership, you always want to try and get that vehicle inspected by a third party. If you ever have a vehicle that you are looking to buy and that specific person is not exactly happy about you inspecting it with another third person, that could throw a red flag, and it should, because an honest dealership or an honest individual should have no issues with you at all having it inspected by a third party. I think transparency is what you're looking for in your next vehicle purchase. Now that you've inspected for all the tape lines, you've inspected to make sure the body lines are all lined up, the next thing you want to do is look for the smaller stuff. The stuff that really doesn't make as much of a big difference because you can pretty much see it. But like here on the hood of this vehicle, you can see that there are some surface scratches that very well may come out if you buff the vehicle and spend some time with it, but you at least need to know it's here before you make the purchase. The biggest thing when purchasing a used car is at least take the time to look at it. There's so many people out there that just see the general idea of what they're looking for as far as a vehicle, they rush into the purchase, and then they end up getting burned. The main thing here is take your time and do it slow. So make sure to look for the scratches, the surface scratches and things like that. That's not a big red flag to me because, like I said, you can usually buff something out like that. But what we want to look at is maybe here on the Tundra, make sure that you open every door in every hood, trunk. Make sure that you open everything that can be opened on the specific vehicle. And some of the things that you're looking for are some other signs as far as has the vehicle been painted. So we felt the tape line underneath the hood. Is there anything on the fender right here? Is there lines right here on the hood? Basically what you're looking for is something that just doesn't look right. That if you did this on a new one, does it feel the same as if you do it on a pre-owned vehicle? Basically, that's what you are looking for as far as red flags on previous damage on a vehicle. Now, you also want to look right here in the cross member. You can actually see right here if it looks like this thing has been hammered out at some point. If you see any signs of banging on this cross member, this could signal a very hard impact. So basically what you're looking for is, does this piece of metal underneath the hood, does it all look factory? Does this look like it would come from Toyota just the way you see it right here? So it's just another thing that you want to look at. Now that you've had a chance to take a look at this, you also want to look at the screws and the bolts underneath the hood. And so as you can see right here, you have the hood is mounted to these hinges, and what you're looking for is on these bolts, you're looking for the signs of, has this bolt been turned? Meaning, has someone taken this hood off after the fact, after this vehicle was built? And usually you'll see, and I don't see any signs of it here, but on this specific unit, but you'll see on this picture that you see on the screen right there, that's what you're looking for. What you're looking for is, has the paint been knocked off of this bolt as someone is using a wrench to try and take it off? And if for some reason this paint is pulled off of here, or also on the bolts on the fender as well, what you want to do is you want to peel stuff like this back, and you can see those bolts. It's the same story. You're looking for any signs of, have these bolts been turned for any reason? And if so, you want to take another further step to let another body man or collision center or somebody that you can trust to inspect this vehicle in addition to you. And so what you're looking for here are red flags, and if you see the red flag, you pass it on to somebody else to let them give you their third-party professional opinion. Now that you've looked and inspected the door jambs underneath the hood, the other thing that you need to look for is signs of rust. And as you come around here to the side, you'll notice that there was a little bit of a nick where somebody had hit something on this vehicle, and you've got a tiny little bit of rust. All you're concerned about here is making sure that this doesn't spread to the rest of the vehicle, because rust can be some of the most damaging things on a vehicle as far as long-term is concerned. Now, we live in the South, and so there's not a lot of salt on the roads up north when it gets into the winter, so we don't nearly have nearly as bad of a problem with rust as some other people in the United States do. But what you're looking for is that rust. You want to look on the bottom side of the vehicle, because typically that's where the rust will be found. And then you also want to look underneath the vehicle. And so as you look underneath the vehicle, are you looking for major signs of rust and things like that? Now, as you look underneath the truck, you'll notice that a lot of these trucks are built with some materials that will have surface rust added easily. Now, that's not something to be worried about. What you're worried about is the vehicle rid with rust? I mean, does it have a bunch of rust all the way through it? Surface rust, not such a big deal as far as some of these parts, but what you're looking for is the big stuff that can really hurt you on the long run of the vehicle. Last two things we want to talk about on the exterior of the vehicle before we move on is damage. And that sounds pretty simple, but what you're looking for is previously existing damage that hasn't been fixed. Like this, for instance. You can see where someone has probably tried to back their trailer up to back the truck up to the trailer. They missed it from somehow. This very well could be what that's from. But what you need to know, this is not going to turn me off as a buyer, but you need to know how to react when you see stuff like this. You have to think inside of your head, okay, if this car is worth X number of dollars, how much would it cost me to fix this? If I took this to my body shop, my collision center, and said, hey guys, I want to get this fixed. Well, if they say it's $500 to fix it, well, my vehicle that used to be worth X is now worth X minus 500. And so that's something that you want to keep in mind as you're purchasing your next vehicle. If it has previously existing damage, I would recommend going to a collision center and getting an estimate on exactly what it would fix, and use that as a negotiation tactic to the individual that you're thinking about buying the vehicle from. Most dealerships you buy a vehicle from will actually get this fixed for you before you actually purchase the vehicle, but it's just something you need to know about before you make that decision. Now, the last thing that I wanted to show you on the exterior of the vehicle is the tires. Now, you would think this would be about the ride and drive and the drivability, but you really need to find this stuff before you get inside the vehicle. And what you're looking for is some abnormalities on the tires. So the first thing we'll skip the tires and let's look at the wheels. First thing you want to do is you want to inspect for any kind of curbage, meaning did someone drive the vehicle onto a curb, and make sure there's no damage, visible damage on the wheel. Now that this vehicle does have a little bit of a scratch right there, as you can see on the outside, I'm really not too concerned about stuff like this. I'm talking about stuff that may hinder the ability for that wheel to hold air in the tire. Is it a safety concern? Now, it may also be a cosmetic, may be a big issue to you, but what I'm primarily concerned about is the functionality of the wheel. Is it still good there? Now that we're looking at the tire, what you're wanting to look for is look on the corner. Make sure there's no dry rot on the tire. This tire is actually in very good shape. You can see that there's plenty of tread depth, and what you're looking for is inside the tire, you actually have these tread bars, as you can see right there. This tire has plenty of tread from where that tiny little tread bar is all the way up to where the tread depth is. And the way I always do it is just stick my finger in there, and if it feels like I've got good tire tread, then I feel good about it. Now, in addition to the depth of the tread, you need to make sure that the evenness of the wear is also good. And so what you want to do is you want to rub your hand on the tire flat like this, and also like this, to make sure that there's no curvature to the tire, or make sure that there's no uneven wear, meaning is there extra wear on the outside versus the inside, or vice versa. And so you need to make sure that all four tires are done this exact way, and make sure that they're all wearing evenly, because you may have a lot of tread on there, but if it's uneven tread wear, then it could cost you a couple of tires you might have to purchase to get the thing to drive outright. We talked about dry rot on tires just a second ago. Let's take a look at this Tundra, for example. As you can see, you do have a little bit of extra wear on the outside, but on the inside, you can kind of see where it looks like it's starting to spider web in between the tire itself. And so this is something that you may want to consider when you're buying this vehicle. It may or may not be a safety hazard, but if you see something like this, this is a good opportunity for your independent mechanic to take a look at it and give them your third-party opinion. Worst case scenario is, hey, you can at least enter that into the negotiation to lower the price of the vehicle. And speaking of price of the vehicle, make sure to be willing to pay a little bit more for a prime vehicle. If everything on the car is right, sound, and straight, if it were me, I'd be willing to pay a little bit more for that vehicle. And we typically do as we're appraising the vehicle, because you don't have to do anything to it to fix it up to get it to retail ready. And that's what you're looking for, is you're looking for a good quality vehicle at a fair and reasonable price. Now that we're done with the exterior, let's take a look at the interior and some things that you're looking for there. Now, the nice thing about the interior of the vehicle is you're not really looking for collision damage and things like that. So this is not nearly as comprehensive of what we just talked about, which was the exterior and looking for damage and things like that. So without further ado, let's look on the inside of the vehicle. You'll notice that this particular vehicle is a little bit older, and so you've got a lot more wear and tear than this Tundra we've been comparing it to. But what you're looking for are things like this. Are there any holes in the seat? This vehicle looks like it's had some, looks like that's actually fishing line that's holding the seat back together. You may or may not care if it has this, this kind of stuff done to it, but it is something you need to know about that can also help you with the negotiation of the vehicle. And so just know what you have on the, as far as the inside. You're looking for excess wear coming in and out of the vehicle over years. You're also looking for any cigarette holes. If you see any burn marks, the tiny little holes, I don't see any ones in this particular vehicle, but if you see that, that's a sign that this vehicle may be a smoker. And if I'm not a smoker, so I can't drive a vehicle that someone has smoked in the past. The problem with the automotive industry now is you can hide smoke very, very well. Not completely, and usually you'll buy a vehicle and then a couple months later, as it gets hot outside, you turn on the air conditioner, you can start to smell that smoke. And so what you're looking for, if you are not a smoker, that's something you want to know about before you buy the vehicle. Once again, it's all about knowing these items before you make your decision. Not saying that any of these are deal breakers, you just need to know about them. So let's hop on the inside and let's go ahead and crank the vehicle up. Now, the first thing that you'll notice is that on the steering wheel, where's the odometer? Well, this is a perfect example. The odometer is not working, and so this is what in the automotive industry we would say that's a TMU, true miles unknown. And that is a major red flag for me. It is, because you don't know if this vehicle has 100,000 miles on it or if it has 100 million miles on it. You simply don't know, because there's no way to get the light to come on. Now, sometimes on some of these vehicles, if you hit the dash, you can get the light to come on, but even then that's something you need to know about. And also you're looking for, on the dash, you're looking for any signs that may bring up, like the service engine soon, or you may have an airbag light on. That's what you're looking for, is anything that can raise flags. If you see a service engine soon before you purchase this vehicle, you definitely want to get that inspected, because that can be anything from a $20 sensor underneath the hood to an $800 catalytic converter that you have to replace. You have no idea, and that's why you just want to plug it up to the computer so that way you can find out exactly what it is you're looking for. Now, as you're on the inside of the vehicle, you want to make sure that you identify what options are in the vehicle. This vehicle is equipped with cruise control, and even though this vehicle does have a rubber floorboard, excuse me, you still have the power windows and locks on both of these front two windows. And so it's something that you need to know about. Just make sure that everything is functioning. So make sure the headlights work, make sure that the fog lights work, make sure that the dash lights or the lights on the dashboard still work. You want to make sure that the air conditioner is working. Even if it is 20 degrees outside where you are when you're buying the vehicle, you want to try and pull the vehicle maybe into a garage of some sort and feel to make sure that the air conditioner is working. The last thing you want to do is buy a car in the wintertime, and then when the summertime gets here, you found out that the air conditioner never worked. So just something you need to feel for is make sure the air conditioner is working. If the vehicle is a four-wheel drive, make sure that the four-wheel drive system is locking in. And depending on how the vehicle is equipped, like this particular vehicle has the four-wheel automatic, so it's electronically shifted. So just make sure that it shifts into four-wheel drive, and then also check the four-wheel low. So put it into neutral and then put it into four-wheel low. And as you could probably hear, it automatically shifted into that four-wheel low. When you put it in drive, you should have a little bit of a kick. There you go. Looks like the four-wheel drive on this vehicle is working just fine. Doesn't bring any alarms to me there. Make sure the stereo is working as well. And basically just make sure that everything on the interior is working as far as the lights and all of that kind of stuff. I know this sounds kind of primitive, but what we're looking for is to give you guys a video, a checklist video that shows you everything you need to know before you make that decision. Because this is, as most people say, the second largest decision that people make, the second largest purchase, right behind your home purchase. Now that we're about to take this vehicle for a test drive, and so what you need to know about is the engine. What are we going to look at as far as the vehicle is concerned? We're going to listen to the engine, we're going to crank it up. We want to do two things. You want to listen to this vehicle and listen to the way that the engine sounds, the transmission sounds when it's cold, meaning a cold start, and you also want to hear what it sounds like after a nice long test drive. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop in the car, we're going to crank it up, and you'll hear exactly what we're looking for as you crank the vehicle up. And so what you're listening for, do you hear any rattling? Do you hear any exhaust leak? And sometimes that'll come as far as a rattle as well. And so what you're looking for and listening for is anything that sounds out of the ordinary. And so what we also recommend that you do is, now that the engine's cold, how does it sound? Give it a little bit of gas. Sometimes on older vehicles, as you give it just a slight bit of gas, you might hear a little bit of a rattling in the engine. And what that can be is the variable cams, the timing on the vehicle may be out of whack just a little bit. And so that's what you're looking for. Just give it just barely give it a little bit of gas. I don't hear anything on this particular vehicle, which is another good sign, but that's what you're looking for, is anything that sounds out of the ordinary. Now, once the vehicle is nice and warmed up, then you can start giving it a little bit more gas. Once again, listening for some other things, some other cues that may throw you off. So now that we've heard on the inside of the engine, everything sounds good to me, what we'll do is we'll hop inside the vehicle and take this vehicle for a test drive. Now, I think this is pretty much self-explanatory, but I also want to make sure that I mention it. You want to make sure that this particular vehicle, you get underneath it and look for leaks. We didn't tell you that a little bit earlier, but we just kind of understood that you need to get down on the ground and see what this car looks like from underneath, because the aesthetics, the top side of the vehicle, it can only go so deep. You know, beauty is only so deep, what do they say? But what we're looking for on the test drive, as I roll the window up and make sure that I put my seatbelt on, because that is the law. What you're looking for are a couple of different things. As you drive the vehicle, you're looking and listening to the engine. How does it feel? Does it feel normal? You want to do this when it's cold, and then also when the engine's nice and warm. The other thing that you're doing is you're wanting to listen to the tires and feel for the tires. As you kind of get going on this test drive, and by the way, this is the exact same test drive route that we take when we're appraising a vehicle to purchase it from a customer, because at the end of the day, it's the exact same thing. What we look for as we're looking to purchase the vehicle is the same thing you should look for. How does the transmission shift? Does it feel good? You'll notice that I'm holding the steering wheel with the butt of my hand, and the idea here is I'm looking to see if there's any wobble in the front end. If the tires are out of balance or the front end is out of alignment, sometimes you'll get a little shimmy in the steering wheel that you may not feel it if you're holding it at 10 and 2. So what we recommend you do is put your hand right here and look to see if your fingers are wobbling, shaking back and forth. That's how we can tell if the front end is out of alignment of some sort. We've got a little bit, but I tell you, on this particular vehicle, a 99 F-150, it's nothing that's really raising any awareness to me. And so, once again, what we're looking to do here is we've got a service engine light on, so we're trying to figure out, okay, hey, have we already plugged this thing up to a computer? Do we know exactly what's wrong with it? While we're driving this vehicle, you basically just want to imagine yourself driving it, but not in an emotional way. But hey, long term, do I think this vehicle will be good for me? Now, the problem with these vehicles now is that you can do everything that you can possibly do. In fact, including having a professional inspect it. But the problem is you could take delivery of it and it breaks tomorrow. And so just keep that in mind, that these vehicles are made by humans, and so they're eventually going to break. We just hope that it's not right after you purchase the vehicle. Hopefully you can get a long-term use out of that particular vehicle. Now, once again, we had mentioned it a little earlier, you want to test the air conditioner. Make sure that it's working. You want to make sure that it's working while it's on park, but you also want to make sure that the air conditioner is working under a load, meaning when you're driving the vehicle. Because if it only works when it's in park, well, that's not a working air conditioner. And so you've got that as well. Now, as we get going a little bit faster, yep, you can see that it is wiggling a little bit. And then we've got this engine is nice and kind of getting warm. What I recommend that you do, if you have access to an interstate, you want to take it on both. What we're doing right now is we're taking the vehicle for a test drive in the city, just cruising around about 50 miles an hour. And then what we'll do is we'll get it on the interstate, and we'll use that as an opportunity to put the gas pedal all the way to the floor to see exactly how that transmission shifts out. All right, as we come up here, we're going to be getting on the interstate here in just a second, and this is a good opportunity to put the gas pedal all the way down to the ground like we just talked about. You're looking to see, how is the transmission shifting? Can it handle it? If it's a four-wheel drive, is there any issues with the transfer case? And then also the engine as well. So as we come here, we recommend stay within the speed limit. Oh, that's a perfect example. The transmission did not want to shift under load, which tells me that this transmission could be or could not be on its last leg. And this is the perfect example of something that you would want to have a professional technician inspect. Now, keep in mind, we do trade for vehicles all the time. We traded for this one, and this is the perfect example of a vehicle that would not make the inspection process. Therefore, we're going to wholesale it so that way we don't retail a piece of junk. Sorry, I don't know any other way to put it, but we're going to wholesale a piece of junk like this so that way we don't sell this back to another consumer. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for a dealership that is transparent enough to tell you if there's an issue on the vehicle, and they'll tell you that on the front end. Now, you're also looking for, is the vehicle drifting? As you let go of the steering wheel in a controlled environment, does the vehicle start to pull either way? Does it start to run off the road? Now, if you do get, if you're in the right-hand lane and the vehicle starts to pull to the right, I recommend also trying it in the left-hand lane, because if it pulls the same direction, no matter which lane you're talking about, based on the crown of the road, then you may have an issue with the alignment, which is the same thing that we did the finger test just a few minutes ago. So as we come back in off the test drive, at initial glance, this vehicle seems like a very nice truck. The body is for the most part pretty straight. We didn't find any major accidents and things like that. But as far as the service engine light, the true miles are unknown on the vehicle. And in addition to that, it looks like the transmission could be going out. Based on those three things that you may not have ever realized if you didn't drive the vehicle. And that brings to my last point of why it's so important to test drive any vehicle before you purchase it, because you never know what you might be getting. In the automotive industry, we call this a plug. This is not a vehicle that you want to buy for yourself. And simple reasons. You may have the transmission go out on you right after you take delivery of the vehicle, and thank goodness you drove the vehicle before you bought it, because you could have been buying a vehicle paying full price thinking that everything is working mechanically sound, but until you drive it and drive it when it's when the engine's cool, and then also when the engine and transmission are hot, that is what it will truly tell you what kind of vehicle you have on your hands. Now, based all on that, that is basically going to wrap up our particular video for today. Now, one thing we want to point out to you is that this video was made possible from you guys. You guys gave us the idea on this type of video, and we need more ideas. We don't want to simply sit here and feed you guys a bunch of review videos. We actually want to give you videos that you guys want to know about. And so if you will, please leave us some comments and tell us what kind of videos should we do next. And also, it's huge help if you thumbs up this video if you found anything useful in it at all. And then lastly, make sure you subscribe to our channel, because we never use this channel to sell something to you. Although we are a Ford dealership in Alabama, we will never use this channel to try and sell you things. We simply want to provide you a bunch of information so that way you guys can make an informed decision on your next vehicle purchase. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.